Hi, it's a living again. My claim is that quantum physics does not exist. Feel free to share this living for people who are interested in technology, as well as I will tell you in this video that what is the basic principle of the operation of the phenomena, how you can repeat at home small and see more attempts in this live video. And before I start telling the whole thing, I also tell you that yes, there are commercials in the video. Why? Because no one supports. A couple of people commented on the group that it would be nice to tell me this phenomenon, the operation of the radiant energy, and the operation of the negative entropy, and the operation of everything, to leave it all kinds of things related to my company or with me, but just to tell me about it. There is a problem with this, that if I do this, they will be disassembled into pieces and talk to all kinds of stupidity that is not true. Because before, dear viewer, it means that for more than a year, other unchanged radiant energy, negative entropy energy, most people still don't realize what it is. So now in this video I will also help you understand what it is, how it actually works inside. We have to do with it as a human being, as conscious beings, but you will see really interesting experiments, so it's worth watching today's live. Look, there are a couple of people right now, I think on Earth, who demonstrates it and try to fully understand what it is. And these are not the big research institutes. We don't get money from anywhere, no one. Only if I can give up a product or service, and I apologize, but 5 years ago. We have the product in the web shop, several varieties, such a wave glass with different devices description, so there is that we have one. And others have no one on the market. And I know this makes a lot of people offended, and they get bad for them, and they will be envious, but this is not the solution. The solution would be to understand what it is, so you do what you want, so you can develop 1,000 million solutions. You can change chemical, biological, and physical effects. Why? Because in fact, quantum physics is very much. So I have my statement, and you will see that it really is, and it really works, and the TRP phenomenon will also be that quantum physics does not exist. These phenomena that you will see now should talk a little more slowly, more understandable, so these phenomena, which you will see now, this was just known by quantum physics and examined it in a tiny way, and for some reason I wouldn't say why it only works small and separately. So separate from everything. No. Because otherwise we wouldn't live. These regenerative processes, they are present in us, and do not explain physics or a few physicists, rather than say that a few physicists explain that we create processes that show a system, and nature in itself cannot do so. This is an orbital great lie, my dear more physicist friends. This is not skew, not smoothing, but an open lie. For if there is no order and organizing principle in nature, not only what we would not live, but also plants and animals. Because when a plant, so say a seed out of the ground, germinates, then it was not the man that made the grave to start photosynthesizing and living. We did not shit Spanish wax. Yeah, this is a little like this, it might be a video. I think it belongs to it, it passes it because it has to be used such strong terms these days so that people can pay some attention to the topic. So it is mandatory to take such things. Let's look at the experiments, but before we look at the experiment, I tell you how it works, how you know what you see. Because now I'm showing you something, okay? That's just how I turn on something. You won't know what's going on now. Listen. Look at it. There's a power supply, here's something, here's a fluorescent lamp, right? The fluorescent pipe, I grab it from a wire and you see it light. Now I hope it seems to be burned. Anyway. Yeah, I take the metallic part, it does not burn, does not hurt, does not pinch, does not kick, does not bite. You don't need water and nothing like that. I'll tell you what the principle is and why it works. Anyway, what is this? Why? The fluorescent tube in this case, when this switch is present, does not heat. No stone release of the fluorescent lamp, only where it is burned. And here, where it is burned, thank you very much for working well, the 6-hole dual watts on the full energy. For a 9-watt burnt tube. But I'd rather tell you how it works. Then we also look at the switching drawing. What do you say? Maybe? Possibly in the field of misinterpretation and stupidity. What's happening here? The roll I use looks like this. Do not consider this yellow, as if it were not on it. Actually, it's just a rod, a matte gloss rod. It has a copper wire, wrapped in one direction, thin thread, 0 threesome, and thick in the other direction, 1 hole 2 millimeters. This is biofiller. I say don't watch the yellow, so you have 4 outlets in total for. This is actually no other. Like the SuperJu ringer, which can be downloaded from the LaserSync side, only a little different, as it is not indicated here that you should use a biliary coil. In the middle, that roll. And why matte glass? What makes matte glass special? Why not fold? Why not iron? Why not emumet? No one explained this, Miguel. Unfortunately, so far nowhere. Since Tesla may have tried something, but well, it didn't seem to be very successful as 160 years ago, and you still don't understand the basic functioning of the phenomenon. And even though we have such a device that regenerates people, brings it to a better state, you just don't understand why it's different than a capper. Why is it different than saying anything else on the market? This is the place of advertising. Yes, this because you have to explain why it's different. Why completely different. Not only a little different, very different. You will understand why. Now in this video you understand why, believe me. No electronics. Many viewers tell me they don't know electronics. I understand this perfectly. I didn't know electronics either. At least not the way I want. But this is not electronics. If not, what is it? So as the... Where did I keep it? I was at Mad Glass, right? Why Mad Glass is special? Because it is made by melting the iron or some iron liquid. It is still in the melt state. And it is cooled so quickly, such 1,000 seconds, such a bullshit quickly cooled to simply in the iron, so in the light, there is no crystalline structure does not develop, but remains completely inside, so homogeneous, amorphous, glass like metal remains. Otherwise, it is quite fragile, so now it would fall from a meter height, it would break. But iron, threshing floor, it's about it. So we talked about a hollow thing again, right? Which is metal like but hollow. Why is this important? Well, the phase is important because of the vaccination. And it is important because of resonances. What the hell? Well, when he meets, the power lines are moving against each other, so he goes in one direction and goes in the other direction, meets each other, and the two wires, when he meets, there is a score. Here in the middle, hi, I read you, there is a score point. At the point where the wires meet each other, they would say short, but not really, because it is not so indirectly, so it does not shorten, power does not pass through it, but only the field of energy meets each other, but also outside each other because it is opposite each other. Electron, magnet and power line extinguish each other. This is well taught by physics. Unfortunately, what did not notice and did not deal with what was happening at that time? Is heat produced? Everything may be yes, but that's not the point. Because dissipation, so heat testing, does not explain where energy seems. And energy does not survive, it just transforms. So what happens? In fact, shock waves are created, but not outward, but inside the material. It's like you have a concise, where do I get something concise now? Moment, all I take a concise thing. It will be perfect for the demonstration. So you have a concise thing, right? But the collar has already been extinguished the vector potentials, so shock waves are created, spherical shock waves are created inside the material. So this does not start to oscillate outward, but the material inside. Inside. Like if a wave started inside and circling back and forth. Because the medium border is different. In the poetry medium border, it extends to some extent. But since we are talking about the material and material oscillation, as it works and what it causes, it must be seen that the material is not three-dimensional. Not only the width, length, and height of the material, so neither for us. We are also of material. Because it works like that. So, the phenomena that are created are the quantum physics phenomenon only to a large extent. This means that quantum physics not only works in a little bit, but always works everywhere. Simply being present, they did not notice the phenomenon that is actually mass oscillation, that is, mass wave. Don't say this is gravity, no matter how you name it, it doesn't matter how you name it. No matter what label it puts, it doesn't matter. When the mass wave develops within the material, the internal oscillation, that means energy. Stop this for a moment. How is this? What does it mean more specifically? Easier, even simpler, what I don't have now. You will take a small bell. You shake some energy, move your hand to how much energy, not much. You shake the little bell, right? It has some sound. You squeeze a giant big bell, preferably with similar energy investment, so that you don't need 10 people to get the bell, it will have a huge voice. Both of them used the same amount of energy cookies. Still, one is very, very loud, the other is not so much. Where did the bell take the energy? It is acoustic energy, but internal acoustic energy. Voice. Just sound. It's nothing more than a voice. And these internal resonances, the material as it begins to resonate inside, can be used for different purposes. You just have to think about what's really happening. So, if this is somehow resonating, we maintain its resonance with something, with a small source such as a pencil element or a 9-volt element or a stable feed, all. So
akkor ez már működőképes. Azt kérlek titeket, hogy live közben ne próbáljatok meg felhívni, mert nem fog menni, és azonnali tiltás jár érte. Tehát a
resonance, when you already have it, you will use it by connecting another larger object, spreading the waves in it, and the material is also starting to oscillate and resonating. That's why Dr. Nikola Tesla that resonances are the most important. It was not just a speech because one thing to think should be, but also to be accomplished and used. Because I think a coil made is not an extremely difficult thing to confront two coils with each other. Isn't it right? It's a dirty thing. That's all we did. Let's look at the experiment for what is happening and why. Is this really a negative entropy? Yes. Going back, working back? Yes. But simply because the mother's internal oscillation causes this. It's good to start the system. So do he actually need the ominous divine spark? So, when our lives began here on earth, your life, dear viewer, it did not happen when you were born, but at the moment of conception a spark, and energy impulses came into creates. Such an energy infusion. This began then self-organizing, i.e. negative entropy synthic compilation processes within cells. Either inside my cell or on its own, as only within the chromosomes it began. Without it, there is no life. There is no life. And this was observed by the researchers too, that when the conception is created, the cell flashes. But they didn't explain where this energy came from. What causes this flash? This is certainly comes a little elsewhere. So creative. This reality we are now experiencing has created it fully. Each part is a wave process. A very, very complex wave process is all. Only that. Only a wave flow. Okay, it has energy and information, and so our consciousness, but it's just a wave flow. Our whole reality is all about wave flows. Negative entropy, positive entropy is to keep this in color. And this also follows the time processes, as they can be linked to each other in time, how they develop well in their process. But you can tell you a little booking video about it. And for example, I could suggest your book, Time Shrink, because I think it's a very good book. Then, if I could suggest a book, then I don't know. Braden, so let's say he had lectures on Colonel Braden. Lectures. Bearden, you find it Colonel. He talks about the same thing. So he did not say that material is internal oscillation, but because it is simple. So it's easy to understand. You can't be too mystic. Well, let's really look at it, look at the experiment. Then, in the meantime, 1 or 2 books may come to my mind. So, in fact, there is only the roll here on the table you saw before, and the wiring is the same. Like what Laser Saber shows, so there is nothing to do is 2 outputs, right? It has an output that is here and has another output that is here. Now I'm not using this output. The laser says he is there, put on a bulb on it. I handle it as 2 separate has. I do not put an ISO on one of the threads, but a conductive body that is, in Hungarian, a mass that can oscillate internally. This already causes that when the system starts, it will be released from there, i.e. on the driver's thread. Specifically, it would be even better. Well, because of the internal oscillation, comprehensions are better than if they are fibrous. Now you get the oscillation back here, so I get more acoustic energy, as if he weren't on it. But the oscillation of the whole has to be started. If you do not start your whole oscillation, you do nothing. The other output, and I can simply connect to another output, such a fluorescent lamp. But it is burned. You can see it there. The power is active. With the sparkler, you only sparks around the area, so what the shock wave itself, the oscillation starts. You get a shock wave when the material inside is all about what's in it. It doesn't matter here. It doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter. Inside the oscillation starts, and I have oscillation, it already turns on the transistor. And because you get energy, so this oscillation remains. But since I said it was a massive mass, so if I grabbed the end of the tube, it would light up better. In fact, even consumption falls down. Check it out. 6 watts of consumption, do you see? There were 18, 0, all 3 amps, 0 whole 369 amps, but if I grab the tube, it lights up better because Are you a, or am I wow? I, as a conductive body, has water in me, so I say, so a water barrel leaf is dripped like another in the haunted. Did you see it? It works like that, but the recipient works like that. In fact, if I wouldn't take it right now, but I would just put a metal table that it would still work. But you need 2 points. It is an oscillation between 2 points. And the more points you put into the system, the more. The greater the oscillation energy you get, the more shock waves are in space, of course within the body, and due to the multidimensional reality between the bodies. Something I want to show on this consumer depends what likes it, so this is how it works out and I grab it. Or if you have a glow that contains all kinds of thought electronics, so I wouldn't want to disassemble this bulb right now, but there is a little transformer, a condenser, all kinds of little taste. I only pinch one side of it. One leg is arbitrary, which one? Well, which leg I hit. I turn on the system and activate it. I say I see that it is active or not, whether there is a power recording. Or I have Avram EcoPlug in my hand. Well, it seems that Avram EcoPlug can be turned on. I didn't know that before. So the load is created because it turns it on. It's good to know. Anyway, that's how I did. But you see that this does not light in my hand. The other outlet, so this metal, I touch it, there is only a transistor connected to it. I think it's pretty convincing. Look at this way, 6 whole 8 watts of power recording. When it lights up, there are 4 whole watts of power recording simply because you need less energy to maintain your entire oscillation. When the waves, the mass wave, the internal mass wave are over, so the system closes in the quotation mark, then it starts to work very nicely. And he needs less energy to maintain oscillation, so he drops the power recording. If I close short, it does not smoke, it does not click, nothing burns, the entire system simply stops and another short circuit is determined. Can be switched back. I close shortly. Stops. He doesn't do anything. No kick, no trick, no bite. I close again. Once again, you just need it fast. Then the system works again. And that's not just that. This is very interesting, very entertained, and very useful, but not only is it, but because it is a space traw. Well, it's not PAX, it's not nuclear energy. Yesterday, my brother, he came to us and I showed him this phenomenon, and we realized with a very interesting new phenomenon that Dr. Nikola Tesla had found. I think that around the thousands of years, around the early years, when he said that a great distance could be conveyed to a single pipeline, or through Earth. So he said it was enough to create a tower on the Wardenclyffe, and the Wardenclyffe tower can be covered with energy. And obviously VW is not with gasoline, because there was no such big waterfall and nothing like that it would produce so much energy. How could Tesla do this? With this system. If I say I am a conductive body, so let's say you will take a large metal rod or just a thin metal, root at the end with a large sphere, a large metal sphere, and stab you into the ground. Either you don't stab you into the ground, it really doesn't matter, land is or not. It is an internal mass oscillation. Therefore, if I can connect this outlet, i.e. one outlet, to one of the metal masses, if I can connect the other expression to the other mass of light at a long distance and activate the system, it will be throughout the oscillation. But I said, the fact that we live in multidimensional reality means that there is a relationship between the two oscillating masses. What kind of relationship do you have? Well, there is a relationship. Or eliminate one of the oscillation masses. In Hungarian, if I were to stop the conductive body connection from here, the system would stop. Let's see that it would be spectacular. Something. What we noticed was that I took one end of this cable, one outlet, the other out of my brother, and burning. LEDs. I connected the wire to this, caught it here, and when he grabbed the other side of the wire, but we didn't hold each other's hands, we were not ground. It was lit in my hand. If he let go, his operation ceased. So for the two conductive bodies, it has to do with each other, that is, a quantum relationship. There is a quantum relationship, an immediate quantum relationship is present between the two masses, but if you eliminate the only transmission medium, the whole process will stop. Or, well, but it stops that the system is still functional if it does not only convey energy. So, for example, this can be transmitted, not inventing this, I just looked at what the phenomenon we see was. It is not electricity, of course, but how to transmit information on a wire. It can be safely intercepted. So this cannot be intercepted, this point connection. Okay. And with this simple primitive role, you can even look at this simple phenomenon. In fact, it is difficult to understand the functioning of the phenomenon. But if you spend a week or two, maybe a few hours, maybe you understand what it is. Plasmatomy oscillation is actually, so as long as the energy is created, it is a quantum. Well, now we can only explain with quantum processes because there is nothing else for us, so there is nothing else in the toolbar. Or torsion field physics, but it is no longer recognized in the West, so I have to say that quantum physics remains as an explanation. But even then, this can only be explained by oscillation of the quantum plasma. You with entropy changes, time-consuming entropic changes. That my crowd, my body starts the process inside. Until you maintain it, the short locking will stop. So, for example, this is interesting in medicine, but I will show you how it works good. With different tools, it will be possible with this energy, the use of this Alpev is it that people can be kept alive even if we were now saying they are in a state of clinical death. Because the internal oscillation will be maintained by the energy processes even when the organs are not together. So if something fell seriously or the consequence of that, even then your life can be maintained in principle. But not with electrical energy, but with internal oscillation, but a delicate structure to create an internal oscillation, vibration to know which physiological process belongs to and be special. But we will be able to technically. In the meantime, we have such a small simple tools, we need to place the coil on solar plexus, and until I am in clinical death, the device is perfectly useful. So, it was a bit morbid, but true. Activate the device. Let's see if what I said is true. Because what I showed, now you can't say that I didn't say everything and not everything was presented. The device is active, but here it is connected to a conductor body. This other cable is connected to a large metal divide, so the other is laser saber. Now I'm eliminating that extra. You may look at other metallic things, you may burn. I let go, and actually the process didn't stop completely, but anyway, If it weren't connected, or if I was connected, this light would light up even more. In fact, another interesting thing you will try at home if someone stands next to you and holds your hand, then it lights even more sharp. So it goes through an even larger crowd. More masses are associated with oscillation. Well, the greater internal reflection is true. So the bigger, I think it's very easy to see that the bigger a metal box that is compact, the larger waves are created, and the greater the reflection. It depends on what is obviously, so how flexible it is to how dense. It only depends on such things. In fact, the presence and functioning of this energy. If you look at it as energy, it can also be considered as an information format. Because I show you a curiosity, and then here's a thermal camera. We'll see what's going on here. That's all, just to see this now, don't break anything, but for a moment, sorry for the misfortune. Because it's just a cell phone to make the recording. Here's the thermal camera. Anyway, so you see it in the thermal camera that it's blue. It can be warm where you see my hand there. There's my hand, this is my hand. To a thermal camera. And in where it is burned, but not between it. Between it is blue, there is no heat emission between it, but it lights up. With 7 watt shots, so not too optimal. Compared to being burned, but optimal. Very questions may be asked about the topic. I will start mailing tomorrow some who have been threatened, listen, very rough, very rough. So I said that it is possible to buy the device cheap for the Alxany print, say this week. Once more slowly, it takes 6 to 8 months to arrive at the devices. There were some who took the 8 months and wrote it yesterday to finally ask for their money. Now, when you bought it, you have accepted that you are buying cheaper. You will get the product at a better price because you are able to wait for this time. So we start mapping monthly, but not because it is not due to the threat to make it clean. I do not accept such. If these tendencies continue because there were already a couple of news, these customers will be excluded throughout the purchase. So they will not be able to buy any products or services from us. Because it's not that. The customer is so impatient. There may be some family tragedy, or he needs the money, or what I know what, but I don't care. He was in the description. Accepted. Get it. But you don't have to threaten. It's not good that I know the threat, You didn't say it. Well, I thought this is worth saying. I hate something, then this. If there is questions, you may be able to turn it on and even put it on the subject, because it is good puff that they light up on it. One or two things are experimentally here in my hand, so that I grab a Raymond's copper in my other hand. Now what seems to be a lira on the light, also along the fluorescent tube. Right? Like if he was a liter, but it's just glass. There's only gas in it. There is no liter in it. Simply because these oscillation shock waves are slightly reduced because of its multidimensional phenomenon, or because of its properties or nature, but always points to the material. So here in this case, this wave is actually pointing to the diode, but it works very nicely with it. Do you see it? So if I had to roll this and I could join a conductive body and something could be pressed, but I didn't care so much anymore. That the machine can be activated if the Ziegler is capacitive. It does not go into a Bluetooth process, but the capacitive is above the zigzag. So, as a capacitor like Ori, it means I will grab the tube. I only put my hand over the Ziegler, I don't touch it. What you don't fit is a moment. You see that God is a squeezed. You see, the computer has become active. Let's look at it again. I take the tube or even 2 fingers, really, and I just put my hand over. I don't touch it. Moment.
Általában szokott működni. Lehet, hogy még csak meg kell markolni. Nagyobb felület. Aha. Így jobban működik.
So the defense that it is not a spook and a spirit effect, and Einstein said that it was a ghost and effect. There is no ghost in it. Should I understand how it works? And if I put my hand toward it smoothly, let's see that it doesn't work like that, okay? So I have to touch it, and even when they touch, I have to touch it stronger. Let's look at it again. The oscillation goes through me. Thy dosage, like such. He doesn't do anything. I'll grab it with 2 fingers. No, I'd rather grab it than before. To the poison. I see no questions. Already in the 100-year-old DNA, there is energy and resonance. Already in the 100-year-old DNA. I don't know what you're talking about. I told you what the principle is. What is a 100-year-old DNA? I don't know what you thought or why you say. I don't really know it, but our products and services are in the web shop. So its bond is xtc.hu.eu. And I was Gabor Toth-Roland, the local director of the EA-IST GmbH. And from here on my little lab, a small hut, this is not a living here, and fortunately we will move away soon if everything goes well. But I need a bigger place because it is from here. But rather, or I didn't say so. Okay, then now you are starting to make up for why the wave genetic matrices can work. So when it comes to a source, we are talking about a source, it starts from one source to 2. Immediately. This is so familiar from somewhere, because that RP phenomenon is by accident. Quantum concentration. If just a lot. And this can be used well for different communication purposes. But there are already separate patents for this. He has submitted a lot of patents on this. Only somehow, these principles have not always come. But I think it would be quite useful to everyone. I don't know, you think. You may think differently, I don't know. You don't write it, you don't say it, so I don't really know. But that would be a good thing, it would be a good thing, so. Basic sign. Why not today? Well, I have no taste or what the hell. You know, I can't put it in, not to sprinkle it in the box. I don't want to break on the way. Because there was an example. Okay. I'll show you the waves, how they look like. So normally, when I take the tube, then a little wait as I get my scope, not even see. Not just about per shots, but I would ask for a moment, a half point. He says we should focus, say, maybe it... Well, let's say the focus is pretty hard on this wave. How it really looks. Listen, this is still not so focused. Yeah, but it was good. That everything was good. It was so good a long time ago. Do you see it? How perfectly it looks like small as spikes. but in fact, they are in space spreads within the material. Such a gummy shock wave as long as the material allows it, and then it has such distorted waves. So making this visible one before can only be a dual smooth crap called an oscilloscope. I roll right and left to see how the waves make up. It's like a wave reflection, in fact. So you have a big wave, you put a big stone in the lake, a LeChuck, pewty put pewty, and then it gets smaller and smaller. Now it will ever be repeated quickly. I tell you how fast. Such is repeated at the moment 60-7,000 times per second. We say it's fast wave. Here, on the above scope, I see why I say 67 because it shows 67 kilohertz, that is 67,000. Kilohertz means 6 walls, 7,000 times. There is such a flushes. How many of these oscillations do you have? Well, it could be counted if the piece could be better zoomed. Here you may be able to count on how many pieces it has. I wrap a little further to be more complete so it can be seen so far because I still refine it a bit. Yeah, the oscillation peak is good big. They're up there. Okay, and then you can count that 60-7,000 times this is all this. This is Loxpox, this 60-7,000 times per second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There is a lot of it. And they are actually all harmonious or harmonic. Each of these small zigzags, because it all came with energy, every little peak. That's all, as the zero would go to, that would be zero, that would be nothing, so that would be the case, I'll show you. That's zero. But that's zero for you? You see what you mean? I understand you understand. I see you understand. That's zero. But then there is an energy here it goes back to, not to zero, but back on it. So, he goes to the minus, then plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, 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 plus. So it's so fantastic. I think, and I think I should use it, and I think very hard. We have been using it for 5 years, but well, if you understand what the point was to say, you can feel that many things could be used, right? Yeah. They only understand. Maybe after the video, a little more will understand. Advertising can fit in because no other present deals. So this is some advertising that, yes, we have one. We have, you don't. This is the Qualita. Oh, I don't want to go out. He did. Thanks.